Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's great to have you with us for the first session of our three-part webinar series brought to you by EquityRT, a leading global investment research platform with a growing footprint across Africa. This is Vijayan Sarjuram from EquityRT, and I will be taking you through an introduction to EquityRT today. It's the first, as I mentioned, is the first of a three-part webinar series. Please try and ensure that you make it to all three sessions. At the end of the three sessions we have planned over the next few weeks, you'd experience various aspects of the platform. We'll be diving into the world of real financial research tools, market analysis techniques, industry insights that are designed to give you an edge and prepare for careers in finance, economics, and investment research. And here's the bonus. If you attend all three webinars in full, you will receive an official EquityRT certificate of participation at the end of the series. Great to pop on your CV or on your LinkedIn profile. So sit back, stay sharp, and let's get into it. We're excited to have you on this learning journey with us. If you have any questions along the way, please pop them into your into the Q&A box on the webinar platform. And we'll try and answer the questions during the session wherever I can. If I cannot get to the questions in the session, we'll then try and reach out to you via email to try and give you an answer to those questions that you may have. Before I get started, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me loud and clear. If you can just maybe just give me a thumbs up or a show of hands that my audio is coming through across loud and clear. Okay, that's awesome. I see some responses. Let's get started. So in today's session, and as I'm getting started, I'm actually going to get into the platform. So today's session will be driven on the platform. The objective of today will be to prepare you or get you accustomed to the navigation of the platform. So how the platform works, where you're going to find stuff that you're looking for, how you can use the main tools, just some general ergonomics of the platform. I think that, and we'll try and cover that in this session. This is a crucial part of your research, as the understanding of the data sets available will then help you in the upcoming sessions that's more focused on the Excel automation capability, where you can gather a lot of bulk data in Excel for multiple companies at the same time, which makes your research analysis needs a lot easier. I'm going to start off by just looking at the platform itself. So when you launch your platform, you would usually see a screen like this, or in some cases, your platform may launch on a stock snapshot page that looks something like this. As you can see, I currently have a dark layout. So the first thing that I'm going to touch on is look and feel. Some people are accustomed to using dark layouts. Again, just the reason why we have a dark layout, it's much easier on the eyes so that you do not have a lot of reflection. So you can spend a lot of time on the platform with the dark layout. But if you are preferring a lighter layout, there's an option next to the profile button. You'll see there's a little light dark indicator where you can actually go from a light layout or a dark layout to a light layout and vice versa. This is user preference. So when you are using the platform, you can then decide on which setting you prefer. I prefer using the dark layout. As I mentioned, it's much easier on the eyes, specifically if you are spending a long time on the platform itself. So toggling between the two will get you to light and dark layouts. Just some other ergonomics of the platform itself. You'll find that there's little Excel icons across the platform. So generally on most tables, you'll find a little Excel icon. This Excel icon means that you are able to download the underlying data into Excel. Again, let me rephrase that: download the data. The data downloaded will be in a static format. So if I were to click this Excel export, it will basically dump this table into Excel. Other ergonomics of the platform would be things like if you hover over certain icons, you would see more information. So for example, I have an icon. If I hover over that icon, it says open in GridPro. That icon says open in ChartPro. We'll get to the capabilities of the icon as we move across the demonstration. But for today, yeah, as I said, I mean, because you're on the web, as you hover over certain icons, you'll basically get more information around those icons, and it varies from page to page. The layout of the application, and let's talk a little bit about layout. What we have done is, for ease of research and ease of analysis, we've grouped the data set into various menus. So you'd see there's a market menu that breaks down the different data types within the platform. We'll run through some of the data types as we go along today. You'll see that we have a section that's from a functionality perspective. We have a section that helps you with sector analysis. We have a menu that will help you with whole shareholding analysis. We have a screening tool. We have a portfolio tool as well. From a portfolio perspective, this might not necessarily be used aggressively at universities. However, this is used in industry. The analyze menu, which is a very popular menu amongst university students for research purposes. We will dive in much deeper today on the GridPro application. And then we have a workspace where you can actually do a bit more bespoke type analysis. And we'll run through a little bit about that today. I'm going to try and keep the session as appropriate as possible to the university or the academic sector. The platform is quite rich in terms of functionality and data. We'll try and touch as many aspects as possible, and at the same time try not to confuse you too much as we go along the process. So let's start on top. Let's start off with the search bar. So when looking for a specific instrument, we have a universal search bar that allows you to search across the database for information that you might be looking for. So if I were to, let's start off, let's bring it back home. If I were to search for a bank like Nedbank, and if I were to type in the first three letters, it starts to search the database for any stock or any other instrument, whether it's an index, a bond, ETF, a fund, maybe a warrant, maybe other instruments that starts off with NED. If I were to expand my word search, it will then obviously give me a much more defined answer. So again, I mean, looking for the stock, it'll be preferable if you type in the full name of the stock, or if you're looking for an economic indicator, like for example, if I was looking for South Africa inflation, for example, the more detail you type into the search, it'll actually make your search a bit more direct and more specific to what you need. So like I tried South Africa CPI, it will actually give me everything that's CPI related. If I get to the macro section, you can see that I've actually got South African Consumer Price Index sitting out here. So again, I mean, the search bar is will help you get to a stock or get to a specific item very quickly. What I find is that quite often we don't know the name of the item, or we're not 100% sure of what we're searching for, or we're searching on an incorrect name. Sometimes it's difficult to find exactly what we're looking for. Hence, I'm going to walk through some of the lists that we have on the platform to help you find what you're looking for. Again, as I go along, I mean, if any questions pop to mind, feel free to pop the questions in the Q&A box. I do have the Q&A box open on my side, so I will try and answer them as I go along. So let's look at the different data sets that we have in the platform and some of the key areas that you'll possibly use during your analysis process. Let's start off with the stock exchanges. So under markets, the first one I'm going to go to is exchange listed companies. So if I click on exchange listed companies, this provides me with a listing of the various stock markets in the world. So I'm actually going to bring this back to South Africa, the JSE, for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, for example. Let's bring that to Johannesburg Stock Exchange. As you can see, when I pull this drop down, we have over 120 stock exchanges in the platform. So you could then select the stock exchange you want. And what this basically brings down is it brings down the various stock exchanges, and it brings down some key information around the stock exchange. So this, you can see it's showing me 52 out of 252 companies on the JSE. And I can actually click on display all or scroll down. It will actually give me the full list. I can also filter my classifications based on cap size, whether I want to see top 100 companies or foreign, include the foreign shares, specific cap sizes. So if I just want the list of stocks that's large cap on the JSE, I could then filter this list out and get a list of companies. This becomes an important part in your analysis process. Quite often, you will be running an analysis on a specific type of group of companies. This is a quick way of getting that list of stocks that you will be analyzing. Just remember, we have the symbol for the stock. EquityRT symbols are the alpha code for the stock in the relevant stock exchange, followed by the country suffix. So, for example, ZA will be South Africa, KE will be Kenya, GB will be London. So the symbols become quite important to take note of in the next session when we start diving into Excel. You'll find that the symbols are quite important when it comes to your Excel work. So this is the reason why I want to spend time in the various aspects of the companies, and we'll run through these symbols and that you'll use in your next session. Likewise, for the stock exchange, we find that amongst academic graduates or academic students, we'll find that quite often there's a need to analyze delisted companies. So you'll see we also have the ability to look at delisted companies. On the delisted company space, you'll see this is governed by region and sector. So I could then filter this list out to say, okay, I'm only interested in South African companies. And I could say, okay, I'm only interested in South African companies in a specific sector. So I could actually break this down to a specific sector, and I could then dive into delisted companies in a specific sector. You'll see that we have the first day to trade and as well as the last day to trade. So in some examples or some assignments that you may have, you would then populate or get a list of delisted companies from here, and or get the stock code of the delisted company out of the platform. This is quite an important part. I know I'm currently dealing 2 or 3 students at one of the other campuses that are doing delisted company analysis, and this is quite an important page for them. Moving along, we'll come back to stocks. Let's just run through the other data sets, and then we're going to dive into specific stocks. And I see you have a question from somebody: can we download financial data in a preferred currency? Definitely we can, and I will show you that when we move into the stock section. Just hang on a bit for that. If I continue to dive down or move across the rest of the data that we have in the system, from an index perspective, I'll quickly run through. So as you'd see, we have preset screens that we have defined. It makes it easy for you to get access to information because the screens have been designed based on user experience, what we find users across the globe doing. So we try to design easy screens where you can get to the information you need. Like, for example, I've just quickly dived into the index overview page, where I've got some of the major indices in the world in terms of who they are. Again, you can see the symbol code. If you go to index list, and this is where you might be spending most of your time on, trying to figure out a specific index on a specific market. I just want to bring it back to Johannesburg Stock Exchange again. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So you see we have the Joburg indices here, or the JSE indices here. And again, I mean, if I'm looking for a specific index, I have a text search. Most industry professionals already know the code. They know that the J203 is the all share, for example. But if you're looking for the mining index, you could type in mining in here. It could then bring in all the indices that are relevant to mining. Again, this is an easy place to grab a stock code. And just remember, all of these items are clickable. So if I'm in the exchange listed companies page, or I'm in the industry page, I can click on any of these to launch a specific page for index. So for example, if I go into the industrial metals and mining index, I'm just going to click on that. It's going to launch a second page. And then what it will do now, it will actually give me a breakdown of that index, a little bit information about that index. It allows me to see some index constituents, to see who's making up that mining index. I've also got some news that's relevant to this particular stocks in this particular index. So this is a quick way of diving into a specific index. While I'm on this page, I can actually show you from a performance perspective. You've got performance on those constituents. You'd see we'd have various key indicators for the stocks within that index. We have news about that index, and we also have the trading information of that index. So in terms of, from a trading perspective, open, high, low, close on that index, we have that data that you can grab from diving into a specific index page. I've mentioned indices. Just remember, from an index perspective, if I go back to index list, you'd find that on your current subscription that you have, you will have access to the MSCI index data set, which is a proprietary set of indices. This is quite a large data set. I think there's over 11,000. I think there's probably, I stand corrected, I think there's about 19,000 MSCI indices. Within the MSCI indices sector, you'd find that within the MSCI indices sector, you would find that you have your climate indices. You also have your MSCI ESG indices. So I'll quickly jump into this page here, the world industry page, just to give you a quick overview. You'll see that within the MSCI sector, you actually have your global MSCI indices, but you also have your MSCI ESG, as well as your MSCI climate change indices. Dow Jones indices is also a proprietary indices set that you also have access to. I see there's a question coming in regarding in the index constituent weightings. The current platform does not have index constituent weightings to the universities. This is a constituent weightings requires additional subscription and requires a direct subscription with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as well. For the academic module, we currently do not have index constituents weightings at present. Okay, so that's your index data set. You have your South African funds. So if there is fund analysis in terms of your unit trust funds, you'll find that the full sector of retail funds are available on the platform as well. They're well organized in terms of fund data. You'd see that from a coverage perspective, asset allocations, trading details on fund, expense ratios, etc. You'll find in this fund the fund information, as well as your fund performance and NAV values over time. So from a fund perspective, ETFs and closed-ended funds, that's available on the platform. So all your stock exchange, your various stock exchange ETFs and closed-ended funds will be on the platform as well. Again, where possible, you'd find that within the ETF space as well, we try and give you the stocks that are within those ETFs, the dividends paid out from of those ETFs as well, trading details on those ETFs that you'll also get. Same with the closed-ended funds. Again, closed-ended funds are mainly other markets. South Africa does not have many. Private company information, jumping to that very quickly. If I go to South Africa, again, this is a question we get asked often. When we have private companies, we cover the parastatals. Unlisted stocks or unlisted company information is not available on EquityRT, purely because unlisted companies are not obligated to provide any financial information or company information at all. So you'd find that there is no coverage of unlisted information. We purely cover the listed stock market. Diving into commodities very quickly, your global commodities are in the platform. So you'll see I've got your metals, energy, industrial, agricultural range, your soybeans, etc., livestock, electricity, and your key commodity indices are in here. We also have the South African commodity futures. So if you were to search for yellow maize or any of the South African commodity futures, you'd be able to bring that data historically in the platform just by searching for it in your search bar. From a currency perspective, you have approximately 160 currency crosses. You'd see what we have done is we've made it very easy for you to actually toggle between the various currencies in the world, and you'd be able to get those crosses in the currency section. Again, you can look at the various performances over the various periods. I will be diving into historic analysis very shortly. So I know so far all the data you have seen is snapshot data, but we'll show you how to access the historical data for analysis as well. So currencies are in there. Your major cryptos are in the system as well. This is your popular cryptocurrencies that are in the platform as well that you can monitor. From a fixed income perspective, your bond data is on the platform as well as your South African bond data will be available on the platform as well. And then I was going to spend a little bit of time on the economic section. So from an economic perspective, we have quite a rich economic module that's available on the platform. I'm going to jump within the economic module. There's various views that you can get of economic data. So for example, I could get go into the Outlook page where I can get a very high level view of the various key indicators. So like your inflation, this is a quick view of the information that's coming from the IMF. I can look at taking a overview perspective in terms of, for example, the G20 overview. I could get a perspective from a country view perspective. So I could look at specific regions and look at how their key indicators perform. And again, I mean, I've got some key indicators that I can select from here. We have an overview. I have economic profiles as well, where you could download a specific or look at a specific profile. The economic profile is not the full list of economic indicators for a country. It's kind of the major indicators. So if you're looking for the main stuff, the commonly asked stuff, you'll find it here. But if you really want to get down into the nitty-gritty of economic research, my suggestion would be to use the indicator option. So within the indicator option, you'd find that what we have done here is we've created a filter list. Just remember, unlike your stock market data that's governed by a stock market, economic data is much wider from a coverage perspective. You've got various sources providing the same or similar economic data, and you have various topics within the economic data landscape. So, for example, and you'll see, I mean, we cover most of the countries of the world from an economic perspective. However, some countries have more rich data. It all depends on the maturity of that company's stats office or their stats SA equivalents. And we'll basically tap into that. So from an EquityRT perspective, we tap into your public sources like your Reserve Bank, like your South African, like your revenue service offices, like your Ministry of Stats offices. And as we also tap into global economic data providers like OECD, World Bank, IMF, Trade Reserve, etc. So if I look at South Africa again, I'm focusing this a lot on South Africa. If you look at South Africa, I could very easily go into a topic like inflation, and I could say, okay, I want South Africa, I want inflation, and I want to see what the stats office is giving me on inflation. And then I can see from a stats office, this is the monthly data that's produced out of Stats SA on inflation, and I've got a full spectrum of information. I've also got frequency. If the data is available in multiple frequencies, I can filter out specific frequencies if it's available. So this is quite a comprehensive database in terms of economic information. We try and tap into as many sources as possible. We have an economic team that's dedicated at sourcing and inputting economic data into the platform. On a daily basis, you'd find that there's additional economic data that's being added. We have a long pipeline of integrations that are pending. We're currently busy with the Middle and Far East, bringing a lot of that data in, tapping into those stats office, building these integration links electronically so that the data comes into the platform very quickly and on time. And there's also a calendar. So we have an economic calendar that you can monitor to see when data is coming out. And you can see, I mean, this week across the globe, these are the key indicators that will be coming out in this week. It's quite a comprehensive database of economic indicators. So again, we've delved into a lot of stuff in terms of the various data sets. I'll just talk a little bit about news. So from a news perspective, if you are looking at news on the platform, you'd notice that you'll see Reuters. Some of you might be familiar with Thomson Reuters News. So we have a global arrangement with Thomson Reuters News to provide Reuters News via the platform. But in addition to Reuters News, you'll find that we have news coming from various stock exchanges like Botswana companies. You can see here, that's London Stock Exchange, that Johannesburg Stock Exchange. There's more Reuters coming in there. There's Australian Stock Exchange popping in down there. And as I scroll down, more news will come on my screen. So this page is giving me kind of every news item that's happening on the world. I have the ability to filter out news in the platform as well. Moving along, let's get stuck into stock analysis and dive into stocks very quickly. Again, the platform allows you to quickly grab information that you need from a stock. Let's bring this back home and let's take a bank, for example. I'm gonna actually just use Nedbank an example again. So if I search for Nedbank, you'll see the ZA option is normally the go-to option for JSE. ZAA will be the A2X option. We also have the Cape Town Stock Exchange, but I'm going to go ZA, which is the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, as you can see here. And now I'm looking at the Nedbank Group Limited in terms of the overview. So the snapshot page is an overview of the company information. So this gives you a very quick idea on the company information. I've got the key stats, I've got the price chart, I've got the recommendations, the analysts are saying. I've got a very quick overview of peer performance, where I can compare Nedbank against other peers globally and locally. And I've got some news happening on the company. I've got a quick earning overview as well as an activity base. So this is a kind of a quick overview of the company. We have various pages that you can actually browse through. I'm actually going to focus on the one that will have most value to you during your analysis process. So I know there's a lot of analysis being done in terms of, for example, in terms of board directors, etc. Qualifications. Sometimes we're trying to analyze what are the qualifications of certain directors or CEOs, etc. You'd find that your profile page gives you an overview of the key people in the company, as well as the cross listings, index components. If I click on any of these icons here, I get an overview of the person. Quite often in here, you'd find they have academic information around the individual. Like you'll see Mr. Brian Anthony Dames holds a BSc from UCT, or University of Western Cape, physics, MBA, graduate diploma, blah, blah, blah. So this is where you could possibly find qualifications of people. Quick place to actually get it from. Another important screen that you could look at within the equity section is when you start running comparators. So if you're running assignments and exercises in terms of, let's compare South Africa against other banks in the country, or let's run an analysis on 5 or 7 emerging market banks. You could utilize your financial health page to come up with that list of stocks. So for example, you'll see here, I've got South Africa, I've got emerging markets, I've got the world, and I've got the company. So what this basically tells me is, it tells me Nedbank's current PE ratio is 6.88. This is what the world median is. This is the emerging market median is 6.95. And within South Africa, if I look at the other banks in South Africa or other commercial banks in South Africa, it's 7.43, which is the median. I just want to just double check again. Can everyone hear me? I see there's one of our attendees cannot hear. I just want to make sure everyone else can hear. You can just give me a thumbs up. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up, so that means everyone else can hear me. The issue might be on your side. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm just letting one of the guys know that everyone can hear me. I think there's an issue at some on somebody's side. Okay, coming back to this page. So as I said, I mean, you're looking at your comparative P ratios. If I were to click on any of these icons, so if I were to click on, any of these numbers, if I click on the 6.95 emerging markets, for example, what it does for me is it actually gives me a breakdown of the other commercial banks that we're comparing Nedbank to. So you'll see this is the full list of emerging market banks that are within the same sector across the globe or across the emerging markets. So I could then, if I were to be running an analysis, I can then select companies from here to then run a comparative. This could be the starting point of my assignment or my project. So this is for me, this is quite a nice page. I often look at this from an investment perspective as well, from a personal perspective, just to understand where we benchmarked against. And it gives me a nice rounded overview in terms of the key multiples for a specific company. You can actually have a look at shareholding data when you have a chance. I mean, this is basically just a breakdown of the owners of a company. If you're running any ownership analysis, I'm going to jump to the next one, the financials page. You'd find that we have two financial options or two ways of looking at financial statements. The one way is a standardized financial. So you'll see the first financial statement is standardized. Let's talk about that a bit. So standardized financial statement means that if I were to pull or I were to download this Nedbank financial statement and download a Standard Bank financial statement, the financial statements will have the same lines. The income statement will have the same lines. The balance sheet will have the same lines, allowing you for comparatives because it's standardized. Within the financial statement, you'll see we have the option of changing the number of periods that you see. You'd see that you can toggle between different formats. International IFRS is probably the one that you're going to go to. That's the default format in most cases. For American companies, we do have the GAAP format as well. You'd see if I were to bring up Microsoft, you'd have a GAAP format as well. Your method of your financial, whether you want to look at an annual financial, you look at a TTM. TTM means trailing 12 months. So trailing 12 months is when we take 6 months of one period plus 6 months of another period. If you mid-period to create a annual perspective, then you've obviously got your annual view, your quarterly view as well. South African companies is mainly semi-annual. So you could then decide which type of metrics you want to look at. I'm going to start, I mean, that's the announced or calculated method that you could look at. If I go to currency, there was a question that we started off with, can I convert this to currency? Yes, you can. So I'm looking at Nedbank now, and if I were to convert Nedbank to United States dollar, for example, which is quite a common conversion, you'll see when we convert an income statement, it gives you the conversion rate for that specific income statement. Just remember, income statement conversion is done at an average currency rate for the year, whilst your balance sheet will be converted at a point in time. So that conversion is done for you automatically. So you do not need to download currencies to run that conversion. And as you saw with my dropdown, we basically convert to the 160 currencies that are on the platform. So you could convert this to any other currency just by selecting this currency on the platform and then download this into Excel. You'd also see we have the restated and original versions of the financials. Restated meaning this is the most recent version. Just remember with financial statements for corporates, sometimes when the financials are released, you'd find that a year later or maybe even 2 years later, when a new auditor comes into play, you might find the new auditor will then restate certain line items. So when those line items are restated, you'd find that they would reissue that financial statement. So you could toggle between the two. and see the restated or the original financials. And again, I mean, just remember, in most cases, there's probably just one or two lines that might change. It's not a drastic change to the financial statement. Coefficient is just rounding. Coefficient is just rounding up the financial, so it becomes easier to comprehend. Now, the as-is financials is not there to confuse you. So the as-is financials is the financials as per the PDF that the company releases. So if you have to go on the company website or click on any of these PDF buttons here, you'll download the actual glossy. That's what it used to be called, the actual PDF that's released on the company website. The as-is financial statement is a replica of that PDF. So in other words, what it means is that Standard Bank and Nedbank might be very different because the line items might slightly vary, because this will be the purest form of that financial. So for example, let's take Sasol, for example. Sasol might declare a exploration expense in the PDF document, but if you go to the standardized financials, you'll find that exploration expense is rolled into some other aggregate number. So if you want to run or deep dive a specific company and get to the nuts and bolts of that particular company, you will then preferably use the as-is financial statement, which is your go-to. So from an audit perspective, I go with the as-is. As-is is not available for all financials across the globe. We cover certain popular stocks so obviously the entire South Africa is available in as-is format. You'd find that your major markets will have an as-is option as well. And in most of Africa, financials are quite often in as-is, purely because we do not have any standardized versions. We have to go and source these financials manually from the countries and then transcribe that information into the platform and bring it to you via the platform. So that covers up the financial statements piece. And you've got estimate data. This is the forecast and estimates coming out of the analyst. Ratios is something that you guys use a lot of as well. You'll find that comprehensive list of ratios are available on the platform. And then the last one that I'm going to dive in here is dividends. So quite often we look at dividend data. We do dividend analysis on companies. You'd find your dividend data that's in here. This news item here that's within the stock, within the specific company's menu, is news specific to Nedbank. So in this case, when I click on this is news relevant to Nedbank. So everywhere across all our global sources of data, of news data, wherever Nedbank was mentioned, so maybe Nedbank's mentioned in China or Nedbank's mentioned in London Stock Exchange, if it's mentioned in any other market, that particular news item will appear in the Nedbank news category. So if you want to really analyze a specific stock, this news category will actually break that down. So from a navigation perspective, I think your market screen becomes an important go-to screen for you to understand the various data sets that are on the platform. And it's also a place where you can actually capture or get to a specific stock code that becomes very important, as I mentioned, in looking at the next, when we go into Excel, when you're building up models in Excel and you need to bring in specific data for specific companies or specific macro indicators, these indicators that you would find on these various pages becomes a key driver into that. I have a question here while we're on estimates, asking, is the forecast data let me read the question out. For the forecast data from the analyst, is it collected from all analysts or select few? How do we understand the forward estimates? Okay, so from an estimate perspective, this is actually gathered from it's a consensus perspective. So it's not at a specific analyst level. So it's not specific analysts. We actually leverage the FactSet user base. So you'll see at the bottom here, it says FactSet. So we leverage the FactSet consensus base. So it's a group of FactSet analysts that determine these metrics. And if there's any specific question around these metrics, you're more than welcome to call us up or pop us a note, and we can actually give you details on that specific metric that you're inquiring. But generally, for example, your forward P's will be forecasted P ratios. So it will be forward. It will be the current price divided by the forward expected earnings. So that will be the straightforward. So the method of calculation will be a standard method of calculation, and the analyst base will be a consensus group of analysts where we're giving you that consensus overview. I hope that answers that question. So let's go back to snapshot page, and I want to take you through. So see, we have 20 minutes left in the session, and I'm going to focus now the attention on GridPro and walk you through a little bit about GridPro and show you what GridPro looks like and how this can be used in your analysis. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the data you've seen thus far is at a snapshot level. The question is, how do we actually start analyzing data from a time series perspective? We have two applications within the platform. One is ChartPro and one is GridPro. And as I mentioned, we toggled on these icons very early during this webinar. So what this basically does is it allows you to go from a single value to a time series view with one click. Alternatively, I could click on GridPro and start the process there. So let's do it this way first. So let's assume I've got price to book value for Nedbank. If I were to click this icon here, opening GridPro, let's see what it does. So if I click on that, it launches this application called GridPro. So GridPro is basically an application that allows you to extract bulk data from the platform. Allows me to change frequencies of data. So for example, there, I'm just going to make this 2 years for convenience. So allows me to then play around with time frequencies, allows me to get max data, play around with data ranges. But apart from that, it also helps me to bring in data for multiple stocks as well as multiple field types. So for example, I've got Nedbank in my on my table. If I wanted to bring in Standard Bank, I could then go and search for Standard Bank. Standard Bank in here, I could get the ZA option of Standard Bank, and I could go and I could search for price to book value. Price to book value here. Let me search it again. Price to book value. I can search price to book value here, click on it, and add it to my table. So as I continuously add to this table, I can then continuously add more and more value types in here. So let's assume I also want to bring in MTNs, and I want to bring in MTN's closing price. I could then select MTN close, bring the closing price for MTN into the same table. Let's assume I want to bring in a USD underscore ZAR, which is our currency rates. I could then bring in a USD ZAR rate into the platform as well and bring that currency into the platform. So this allows me to bring in bulk data into the platform. Let me just bring this data set to a smaller data set. Let's bring the 3 months. And I'll just show you what else. So I'm just going to bring daily data for 3 months into the platform. Let's assume this is my data set. What else can I do on this? So on this GridPro, first of all, I'm able to export this into Excel. So I've got a little down arrow here on the right-hand side. It allows me to export into Excel. It allows me to change my time range. But what I can also do on this platform as well is I can also create custom formula as well. So for example, if I want to create a function of, for example, say, what is the ratio of Nedbank's price to book to Standard Bank's price to book, and create a new ratio. I could add a function, and let's call this new ratio price to book value. And I could say take Nedbank divided by Standard Bank, click on save, and what it can do for me, it actually creates me a new function, a ratio of Nedbank relevant to Standard Bank. Now, this is all happening with the big data in the platform. So I'm not downloading it into Excel as yet. I'm trying to create these custom functions on the platform. What I can also do with this data set is I can also index this data set. So for example, I've got different metrics here. I've got a currency, I've got price to book, I've got closing price, and I've got this new ratio that I've just created. I could index this data based on my timeline. I could move it to a normalized perspective by clicking on the bottom left corner, and I could normalize this data set. So normalizing this data set means it will base this data set to 100. You can see at the bottom there, at the bottom of my screen, on the 13th of January 2025, which is 3 months ago, it based the data set to 100, and then now I've got a base data set that I'm looking at. If I want to be fancy and I want to apply a base to specific data, I have the ability to apply a base value to a specific data. So for example, if I want to apply a base value Standard Bank only, I could then apply a base value Standard Bank only, and I'd see Standard Bank's price to book value is now based to 200. And that calculation is automatically done on the platform. So this is where the platform power order becomes possible, because now I'm working with a large data set without having to dump into Excel and then worry about my Excel falling over. So I'm doing this on the platform, creating custom functions, normalizing data within the platform as well. I've also got the ability to change any of my data sets currencies as well. So if I'm looking at, let's say, the close value as a more practical example, I could change that close value to US dollar, for example. So I could change the close value of MTN now to US dollar. So now I'm looking at MTN closing price, share price. I'm looking at it in US dollar terms. So this is the ability where you can then create a grid. It's not just, I mean, obviously I brought price to book value, etc. If you click on the function list, and let's assume you're searching till the cows come home, and you cannot find the field or the value type that you're looking for, what you could do is you could click on the function list, which is that little block again. Let me do it again. There's a little block between the add and the search bar. It says function list when I hover over it. Remember, I said hover over the platform and it will give you clues. If I click on function list, I can then look at, for example, what are the dividend functions available on the platform? What are the, if I go to financials, what financial metrics are on the platform? So again, if I just want to pull in EBITDA, or I want to pull in cost of sales, I could use the GridPro tool to bring in that cost of sales or that EBITDA or that revenue value for a stock, instead of downloading 20 financial statements. I could just bring in a single value, and you'll see a little icon, the little eye icon that's available here. If you hover over it again, it just gives you a brief overview of what that platform, what it looks like. So so that's your ability to actually now explore the other functions that are available within the platform. You'll see your estimate values as well. The estimate functions are also in here in terms of your forward values as well as your rolling forwards as well. So we have both forward values, like what's your 1 year, 2 year, 3 year forward. We also have your next 12-month forward. So your NTM forwards, which is basically, for example, if it was a PE ratio, it will be your current share price over the next 12 months forecasted earnings. And then we also obviously got your 1 year forward earnings, or so your 1 year forward PE or your 2 year forward PE, etc. on this platform. So again, I mean, this is the place that you spend most of your time on in extracting data. If you were to go to GridPro, for example, just going to close this. The GridPro is pretty much the same as the GridPro. The only difference is you're looking at the data on the chart. So the difference between GridPro and GridPro is the functionality that I've showed you is practically the same. The output is slightly different. So, for example, you'll be able to do a chart. You'll be able to index a chart. But again, I mean, we can have a separate session just on GridPro. So just coming back into GridPro, what's this one last thing that I should have showed you? Let's look at an existing grid. So I've got an existing grid here. I'm just going to make this end of month so that we can see the data. So for example, when you create your grids, sometimes you find that your grids are not in the design style that you want. So for example, you're looking at this, but you actually want the dates to be in the columns and you want your stocks in the rows. For example, there's a grid type button here that allows you to change the look of your grid. So you'll see, I mean, here I could then decide to change the way the grid looks. As you can see, it's in the background, it's changing the way the grid looks. For example, there I could change it in that way, or I could change it in that way where I'm grouping each date. So again, if once you created your grid and you know what you want, you could then decide, okay, I'm actually going to change the layout of the grid so that when I download into Excel, it becomes easy for me to make my comparatives with the rest of the data that I'm looking at. Okay, cool. So that's that mentioned ChartPro, GridPro. We'll dive into more details on the sector analysis in another session. I want to spend the next 5 minutes from a support perspective and touch on the main support channels that we have. And for that, I'm actually just going to log out of this demo account, and I'm actually going to log into a different account so that we can actually see that. Just give me a second. Is there any questions while I do this? Please feel free to pop it in the box, and then I can try my best to answer them now, or take you back to the screens that we might have already gone through. I'm just going to kill that. It's going to bring you into the support channels now and just show you what we can do. Okay, so from a support perspective, I'll quickly look at a support perspective. You'll see that we have, from a support perspective, you'll see that if you scroll down, click on the profile button on top, and you get down to Help Center. So clicking on that little icon, it will either be, I think in your case, it might be an F or an A icon in terms of the user. If you click on Help Center, whilst you're in the platform, you click on Help Center, and you'll see within the Help Center, you've got a Getting Started option. You've got your quick tips, and you've got tutorial videos. So there's other tutorial videos that we've done as well in terms of various aspects of the platform. So you're going to find 90% of what you need on these pages. It will actually give you a good idea in terms of using the platform. You can also search this article database. In addition to that, there's our support desk is support@equityrt.com. So I trust Bernice will share that with the team and make sure everyone has access to that email address, so that that goes to a global support desk that can help you with specific items that you may be looking for, etc. But ultimately, your help center is going to be your main spot of support. Then within the application itself, let's, for example, I was in GridPro and I'm playing around in GridPro and I'm stuck. You'd see there's a little play button that's on multiple applications. So even the stuff we haven't touched, like stock screening, the little play button on the top right corner of most applications would open up a video that explains to you how to use that particular application. So if I click on the little play button, it opens up a video that will then play and explain to me how to use, how to create grids and how to use grids. So that's online support. And then in your application, you'd see there's a little bot there's a little AI bot that's on the platform as well called Era. And this bot can help you with some of the questions that you may have. Like, for example, how do I plot a chart in ChartPro? And again, I mean, this is multilingual, so you can ask it questions in different languages. So this is multilingual. You're able to ask it questions in a variety of languages. And this can also give you help in terms of how to use the platform. It can also tell you, for example, how do you calculate PE. It will also help you with some of the calculations that are on the platform. So it explains to you how those calculations are done on the platform. But just remember, this chatbot is helping you, supporting you using the platform. The chatbot will not help you if you type in your assignment project into the chatbot and expect it to do your assignment for you. So we've had students from other universities across the globe, not just in South Africa, but across the globe, that literally copied and pasted the assignment objective and said, hoping that the AI will do the assignment for them. Unfortunately, the platform's there to guide you or give you the information to run your assignments and your projects. And AI is there to help you look for something or help you understand the platform, help you navigate the platform, support you in terms of finding a calculation, or support you in terms of giving you guidance on how to use an application within the platform. Please use it as such. I think if you ask it to do your assignment, it's not gonna do your assignment for you, unfortunately. So that could be one of your options. So those are your direct support options, where you can get direct assistance. In terms of platform usage, please engage with your relevant faculty members or the responsible faculty members at your university. They will guide you in terms of, from an access perspective, in terms of where you access the platform, how you access the platform, etc. And again, I mean, I unfortunately cannot comment on that within this session. So for today, this is where we're gonna call it. It was an information overload in terms of platform usage for today. In the next session, we're going to be covering the exciting part, which is the Excel bit. That's my favorite, in terms of how do we utilize Excel to bring data in? How do we maximize the bulk data extraction? Excel makes getting data out of EquityRT a lot easier, specifically when we're running exercises to get a lot of data from a lot more companies than just one. GridPro does a damn good job, but Excel does a better job. So you'll find that in some instances, GridPro will be an easier option, and then in other instances, using a Excel template or building an Excel model might be a bit more of the smarter option to take when pulling that bulk data. So again, feel free to send us any of your questions to one of our representatives or to our support desk. I'll just remind you guys, the support address is support@equityrt.com. I'll ensure that that email address is circulated amongst all attendees. And again, our help desk will then support you whenever you're stuck. But for now, engage with your faculty, understand how to get access, when to get access. And yeah, good luck, and hope to see you in the next session. I hope you found the session valuable. Have a good evening, and catch up with you soon.